Today I'm going to talk about a game that all know, or many know. It's called Grand Theft Auto. And here's the history. The first Grand Theft Auto game was just called Grand Theft Auto. It didn't look it's good as good. It looked good uh, at that time. Um, it was seen from an eagle perspective, which means it was seen from above, or you can also call it bird perspective. But and the next in the series was called Grand Theft Auto London. It was pretty much the same concept of in the first one, but just in London with London rules and so on. After Grand Theft Auto London, Grand Theft Auto 2 arrived to the market. It was um, again seen from above, but this looked more impressive than the others. Here, shadows were added. Again, in the first ones, it was still played from above and in like a 1940s, 50s city in America. So it wasn't as good as it could be today, but the bullets was small red dots in the game. So you make your mind of that. After Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto 3 was released, and Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first in the series that was seen from a third-person perspective and not from a bird perspective. The game's graphics look a bit like Liberty City Stories graphic. It takes place in Liberty City. The game wasn't the quality of the game graphics as good or aren't as impressive as if we compare it today. Moving on, after Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City was released. It was maybe like a 1970s, 80s looking game where you again saw it from a third person perspective. It ain't a bad game. The graphics are okay, uh, but the it's a good game. You can't really miss or say anything bad about it. After Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Grand Theft Auto was released to the Game Boy Advance and only to the Game Boy Advance. This game. Um, it wasn't as good looking. It looked like some of the first games. Actually, I would say it looked pretty worse than the first games. Um, the bullets are these little red, oh, not little actually, pretty big red dots, and it's a like combination of the old Grand Theft Auto and the more new Liberty City Grand Theft Auto 3. After the Grand Theft Auto to the Game Boy Advance, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was released, and now San Andreas, it was an impressive looking game. It looked good. It was good. The system and the steering was good, and this time, instead of what we know today in the island modes, you have like these big forests you could, big forests, big deserts you could explore, and it wasn't as island based as those are and will be. After Grand Theft Auto after Vice San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories was released. And now this looks like the Grand Theft Auto 3, just with renewed graphics and well, the characters in this game, when you steal their cars or fight back to get them sometimes. Um, it was it was good enough for the time. It was released on the PSP and PS2, so the graphics, you know. After Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories came along. Again, this 1980s, 70s look on both cars and clothing, and the game is itself good enough, but it's not as fun as the new games, partly because of the graphics. After Vice City Stories, Grand Theft Auto 4 was released. And now the Grand Theft Auto 4, the graphics was impressive and are still impressive. The game is good, gameplay good, everything you can. The good part of this is there are mini games and you can play like dart or bowling or whatever. So it's the game itself is pretty good. After Grand Theft Auto 4, a I wouldn't call it a follow-up or another game. I would call it a expansion pack. It was Lost and Damned. The Lost and Damned still take place in Liberty City. You just play as another character with another weapons. I wouldn't actually say it was a another game. I would just call it, as I said before, an expansion pack. And moving on, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown was the next in the series. Now or it's not called Chinatown, it was called Chinatown Wars. This game was only released on PSP, not iPod, iPod, iPhone, MDS, and a device or a portable device called an iOS. The characters are a bit cartoon looking, so it's not as impressive as you see like in Grand Theft Auto 4. But shadows work great. The game is good in itself for example PSP game. Not that I have anything against PSP games. After Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, Grand Theft Auto Battle of Gay Tony was released. Again, I wouldn't call it another game in the series. I would probably just call it the expansion pack because again, it takes place in Liberty City. It adds some new weapons to your arsenal and everything, another storyline, but basically the same. So new weapons and everything. I wouldn't call it a exact other game. And after this, we all know Grand Theft Auto 5, which are released either in 2011 or 2012 or 2013. Grand Theft Auto 5 looks impressive in its trailer graphics, but it also takes place in Vice City, I think. So this was my review on the Grand Theft Auto story.